I stared at my design drafts, my emotions still in turmoil. Didn't I die? How am I still here? Just as I was trying to make sense of everything, my phone suddenly rang. It was a call from Emma. I took a deep breath, suppressing the seething rage within me, and answered the call. But the voice on the other end was one I recognized all too well, a man's voice. Hey, it's Ryan. My phone ran out of battery, and I happened to run into Emma. She wanted me to check if you've finished your graduation project yet. As I heard his voice, my breath hitched, and I couldn't stop my hands from trembling. In my previous life, I didn't notice anything odd in what he said. I was just happy to share my progress with him. But now, I finally saw the truth. Ryan and Emma must have been colluding all along. Feigning frustration, I replied, I'm still stuck. No inspiration yet. Then, I quickly hung up the call. My heart was racing. In my past life, the slander that destroyed me was orchestrated by none other than my so-called boyfriend, Ryan. He falsely accused me of plagiarizing Emma's designs, blasting it all over social media. The backlash was relentless. I was harassed. People showed up at my door with threats. I hid in my room, terrified, nearly starving myself to death in my own home. But even that wasn't enough for him. He released our private photos and my personal information, attracting vile men to harass me even further. Recalling those memories made me shudder. But now, I've been given a second chance. This time, I won't let them hurt me again. Steadying myself, I opened Emma's social media page. I saw several of her recent design posts. They weren't bad, but they lacked any standout qualities. Just as I was about to exit, I noticed she had just uploaded something new. The image slowly loaded, and the moment it appeared, a chill ran down my spine. The design was painfully familiar. It was the exact same one I had just finished. Her post was captioned, "Finally completed my design draft." The image was so identical to mine, down to the tiniest detail in the bottom left corner. How could this be? I had just completed it a few minutes ago. The comments beneath her post were already piling up. Wow, this is genius-level work. You're not letting anyone else have a chance, are you, Emma? Honestly, even if I tried to copy, I couldn't do it as well. Just then, the door to my dorm room swung open. I quickly shoved my designs into a hidden corner. It was Claire, one of my roommates. Seeing the look of frustration on my face, she immediately perked up as if she'd found the perfect outlet for her excitement. Avery, did you see Emma's post? Her new design is insane. She used to be nowhere near this level. In my past life, I had brushed off Claire's comments with a few polite responses before rushing to submit my own project. But now, I understood why none of my roommates stood by me when I was accused of plagiarism. They had already been swayed by Emma's performance. Emma, I feigned curiosity, making it seem like I was genuinely interested. Claire's eyes lit up at my response. She quickly pulled her chair closer to me and reopened the post that was forever etched in my memory. Just look at this draft. I can already imagine how stunning the final product will be. It's basically a masterpiece. She kept gushing about it, but I couldn't bring myself to listen. My chest ached. Is history going to repeat itself? As if oblivious to my silence, Claire suddenly said, "But don't you think that gardenia motif looks a lot like your style?" I froze and stared at the black and white sketch of the flower. That suffocating pain vanished in an instant as a new plan began to take shape in my mind. Claire, if I told you that her design is identical to mine, would you believe me? Her eyes widened in shock, and for the first time, I saw a glimmer of belief. What? Seeing her reaction, pressed on. I finished my draft only minutes ago, yet she posted it almost immediately after. And the one you just showed me matches mine exactly. I pulled out the stack of papers, revealing my draft at the top. It was an exact match to Emma's post. Claire's jaw dropped as she shifted her gaze between the screen and my drawing. Rendered speechless, Claire was still in shock, staring back and forth between the photos on her phone and the designs in my hand. After a long moment, she finally managed to speak. There's no way she could have drawn this in just 10 minutes, let alone produce something so identical. How did she even get your design? I don't know, I replied, shaking my head. But there's something strange going on. It doesn't make any sense. In my past life, I had been too naive, too trusting. But this time, I refused to be that foolish again. If Emma had stolen my design once, she would do it again, especially with Ryan backing her up. My eyes narrowed with determination. I needed a plan. I turned to Claire, whose concern seemed genuine enough. Claire, I need you to keep this a secret. Don't tell anyone what I just showed you. Of course, Avery. I promise, she said, looking a bit hurt that I even had to ask. I won't tell a soul. But what are you going to do? If you can't clear your name, everyone will believe you copied her. My fingers clenched around the edges of my drafts. Crumpling the paper slightly, I took a deep breath to steady myself. I'll figure something out. But first, without hesitating, I ripped the design drafts in half. Then I tore them again and again, shredding them into pieces. Each tear felt like a release, a way to vent my pent-up anger. Finally, I threw the scraps into the trash. Claire gasped, rushing to collect the fragments that had spilled out of the bin. What are you doing? I actually wanted to see this design completed, but I simply smiled, the weight on my chest finally lifting. If I can't walk this path, I'll create a new one, I told her. It's time I changed the game. I could see the confusion in Claire's eyes, but she didn't question me further. Just then, her phone alarm went off, a reminder for her part-time job. I have to go, she said reluctantly, gathering her things. But, Avery, if you need help with anything, just call me. Okay. I will. Thanks, Claire, I replied as she rushed out the door. Now alone in the dorm room, I lay on my bed, exhausted from everything that had transpired. The events of the past few hours were overwhelming, but this was nothing compared to what I had endured in my previous life. I closed my eyes, trying to rest, but a gnawing thought wouldn't leave me. Why had Ryan used Emma's phone to call me earlier? Why had he only shown his true colors after I was at my lowest in my past life? A suspicion took root in my mind. Could it be that Ryan and Emma had been together behind my back all along? I picked up my phone and began scrolling through their social media accounts, meticulously looking for any signs. After a few minutes of searching, I found a post from Emma 6 months ago. It was a photo of her holding hands with a man, with a half-eaten cake in the background. The cake was familiar. I had seen it in Ryan's posts. I distinctly remembered asking him about it back then. He had told me he was celebrating a friend's birthday. But now, looking at Emma's post from the same day, it was clear. They were celebrating together. The man in the photo was Ryan. A bitter smile spread across my lips. My so-called boyfriend had been cheating on me with Emma all along, and it had taken dying and coming back to life for me to finally see the truth. But surprisingly, I didn't feel as heartbroken as I thought I would. The pain I'd endured in my past life had already turned into a cold hatred. This time, I wouldn't shed any tears for him. Without hesitation, I opened my chat with Ryan and sent him a single message. It's over. We're done. Then, before he could reply, I blocked him on every platform. It was as if a huge weight had been lifted off my shoulders. For the first time in a long while, I slept soundly, free from the chains that had bound me to a toxic past. When I woke up, the sun had already set, and the dorm was bustling with the noise of my roommates coming back. Claire noticed me waking up and immediately pulled me aside. Avery, Ryan called me earlier, asking why you suddenly broke up with him. What happened between you two? I cut her off before she could ramble further. I couldn't afford to trust anyone completely. Not yet. Claire, did you tell anyone about what we discussed earlier? She looked almost offended. Of course not. I haven't breathed a word of it to anyone. I'm keeping it a secret, just like you asked. Relieved, I answered her previous question. Ryan and Emma have been seeing each other behind my back. I've known for a while but decided I've had enough. Her eyes widened in disbelief. What? That two-faced bastard. And with Emma of all people. I shrugged, not wanting to dwell on it any longer. I don't care about him anymore. But I need to distance myself from those two. I can't let them drag me down again. What I needed now was a fresh start. I had a new design idea brewing in my mind, something completely different from anything I'd done before. It would take everything I had to pull it off, but it was my only way to prove myself. For the next few days, I spent every waking moment outside, searching for inspiration. I shut off my phone to avoid distractions and roamed the city, visiting parks, museums, and even hidden alleyways for ideas. One day, while resting in a small hotel room, an idea struck me like a bolt of lightning. I immediately jumped up, grabbed my sketchbook, and started drawing. Hours flew by, the sun setting outside, but I didn't stop until the design was complete. Staring at the vibrant red dress I had sketched, I finally allowed myself a small smile. This design was nothing like my old ones. It was bold, raw, and carried a piece of my reborn spirit. This time, they won't take it from me, I whispered to myself. For the next few days, I roamed the city, seeking the perfect materials to bring my new design to life. I needed fabrics, trims, and accessories that would elevate my concept into something truly unique. It was tiring, but every step I took made me feel more alive. With my previous design stolen, I couldn't risk anyone seeing what I was working on now. I went to great lengths to ensure no one knew where I was, even blocking everyone on my social media to avoid distractions. Claire had texted me a few times, but I chose to ignore her messages. I needed to focus on this new project without interference. One day, as I lay on the hotel bed, mentally exhausted but determined, a spark of inspiration hit me. I leapt to my feet, grabbed a fresh sheet of paper, and poured all my ideas onto the page. The lines came to life as I sketched, and for the first time in a long while, I felt a glimmer of hope. Hours passed, and by the time the sun dipped below the horizon, I had completed the new design. This one was even better than the last, filled with a fierce passion that reflected the fire burning inside me. I had drawn a vibrant red dress with intricate details that symbolized rebirth and strength. It was unlike anything I'd ever created before. But as I admired my finished draft, a nagging feeling crept into my mind. I couldn't shake the fear that somehow Emma would steal this design too. How could she possibly know what I was working on when I had kept it so secret? But considering what had happened before, nothing seemed impossible. To protect my new creation, I decided to produce it myself. I spent the next few days running from one tailor shop to another, carefully overseeing every step of the production. I couldn't afford any mistakes this time. The final piece needed to be flawless. When I finally returned to the hotel with the finished dress in hand, I felt a rush of relief. But just as I was about to relax, I made the mistake of checking my phone. I opened Emma's social media, half expecting to see something familiar, and there it was. She had just posted a photo of a red dress that was identical to mine. My heart sank, a chill running down my spine. How is this even possible? Emma's post was captioned, "A new creation for a new beginning." The comments were filled with praise. "This is even better than your last design. Emma, you're truly a genius. How do you keep coming up with such unique ideas?" I felt a wave of cold fury wash over me. She had somehow stolen my design again, even though I had gone to such lengths to keep it secret. My mind raced, trying to piece together how she was doing this. Was she hacking into my devices? Or was there someone spying on me? But I had been so careful this time. I made sure no one could have seen my work. I clenched my fists, struggling to control the rage bubbling up inside me. I wasn't going to let her get away with it this time. I would expose her no matter what it took. Just as I was spiraling deeper into my thoughts, my phone suddenly rang. It was Claire. I hesitated for a moment but eventually picked up. "Avery, are you okay?" she asked, her voice filled with concern. "I've been trying to reach you. You need to check the school forum right now." "What's going on?" I asked, my voice tight. "It's Emma. She's spreading rumors about you again," Claire explained hurriedly. "She's claiming that you threatened her and tried to steal her designs. People are saying you even vandalized her drafts." My hands tightened around the phone. I quickly opened the school forum, and sure enough, the top post was a statement from Emma. "Hello everyone. I'm Emma. I wanted to clarify some things. Lately, someone has been trying to sabotage my work and has even resorted to threatening me. I don't want to reveal who it is, but I've been pushed to the brink. All I ever wanted was to create freely. But now I'm being cornered." The comments section was ablaze with support for her. "Stay strong, Emma. Whoever is doing this is disgusting. Does anyone else think it's Avery? She's been acting weird lately." Reading through the comments, I felt like I was reliving my previous life all over again. The same accusations, the same twisted lies turning everyone against me. But this time, I refused to be a helpless victim. I quickly packed my things, checked out of the hotel, and headed back to campus. As I walked through the hallways, I could hear whispers behind my back, but it was nothing compared to what I'd endured in my past life. Instead of confronting Emma publicly, I decided to handle things more carefully this time. I went straight to the office of my academic advisor, Professor Williams, and laid everything out. "Professor, I need to report something," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Emma has been stealing my designs, and now she's spreading false accusations against me. I have evidence to prove it." He looked at me thoughtfully, then nodded. "Avery, these are serious allegations. Do you have any concrete proof?" "I do," I replied, "but I need your help to clear my name." We discussed a plan to expose Emma at the upcoming design showcase. It was the perfect opportunity to reveal her lies in front of everyone. That evening, I registered a new anonymous account and posted my side of the story on the school forum. "I'm Avery. I want to clarify that I have not threatened anyone nor stolen designs. All my work is my own, created through my efforts. The accusations against me have caused significant distress, and as a result, I am taking a temporary leave to focus on my mental health." The post quickly climbed to the top, sparking another round of heated debates. "She's just trying to play the victim. Why doesn't she provide proof if she's innocent? Maybe Emma isn't as innocent as she seems." I knew this wasn't enough to clear my name, but it was a start. All I had to do now was prepare for the design showcase. This would be my chance to turn the tables. I spent the next few days holed up in my room, meticulously preparing for the upcoming design showcase. This was my last chance to prove myself, and I couldn't afford to make any mistakes. Emma had once again stolen my work, but this time, I was determined to expose her for the fraud she was. I didn't leave my apartment, avoiding everyone and everything that might distract me. The design I had in mind was different, something completely original that no one could replicate. The only problem was time. I had barely a week left to create the entire piece from scratch. But I was determined. I poured every ounce of energy into my work, refusing to sleep more than a few hours each night. I kept all my materials locked up, my phone turned off to avoid any potential leaks. If Emma had eyes on me, she wasn't going to get a single glimpse of my new design this time. As the deadline for the showcase approached, my anxiety grew. I couldn't help but wonder if Emma was planning something else. What if she tried to sabotage me again? But I pushed those thoughts aside. I had to stay focused. Finally, the day of the showcase arrived. The event was a grand affair, with all the design students showcasing their graduation projects in front of professors, industry professionals, and even potential employers. The room buzzed with excitement, the air thick with anticipation. I arrived early, dressed simply in black to keep a low profile. As I set up my station, I noticed the other students glancing at me, whispering behind my back. It was clear that Emma's smear campaign had turned almost everyone against me. But I was no longer the timid girl who cared about their opinions. I was here to set the record straight. Just as I was making final adjustments to my display, a familiar voice called out behind me. I turned to see Claire hurrying over. A look of worry etched on her face. "Avery, I heard Emma talking to Ryan earlier," she said, out of breath. "They're planning something. You need to be careful." My heart sank, but I kept my expression neutral. "What did you hear?" I asked. "She was saying that if your design impresses the judges, they'll find a way to discredit you," Claire whispered. "I think they're planning to accuse you of plagiarizing again." "Let them try," I said, my voice cold and steady. "I'm ready for whatever they throw at me this time." Claire looked at me with a mix of concern and admiration. "You've changed, Avery. I've never seen you this confident before." I just gave her a faint smile. I've had enough of being walked all over. As the showcase began, the hall was filled with the sound of applause as students took turns presenting their designs. Emma was scheduled to go right before me. I watched her from the sidelines as she presented her original designs to the judges, receiving enthusiastic praise. The smug look on her face was infuriating, but I kept my cool. When it was finally my turn, I took a deep breath and stepped onto the stage. I unveiled my latest creation, a vibrant red dress with intricate embroidery that shimmered under the spotlight. The judges leaned forward, clearly intrigued. This design was unlike anything I had ever done before. A statement piece that reflected my journey and the fire that had been reignited within me. The audience was silent, their eyes glued to my work. Then, slowly, the applause began. It was hesitant at first, but it quickly grew louder and louder. For a moment, I allowed myself to bask in the satisfaction. This was the moment I had been waiting for. But just as I was about to step down, Emma stood up from her seat, her voice ringing out across the room. "Excuse me, everyone. I have something to say." I froze, turning to face her. The room fell silent as all eyes turned toward Emma. "This design looks awfully familiar, doesn't it?" she said with a fake smile plastered on her face. "In fact, I have proof that Avery stole this design from me, just like she's done before." A collective gasp rippled through the crowd. I clenched my fists, but I stayed calm. I knew she would try something like this. Emma held up her phone, showing a photo of a red dress that looked almost identical to mine. The timestamp on the photo was from a week ago. "I posted this design on my social media last week," she claimed. "Avery must have seen it and copied it." The judges looked at me, their expressions stern. "Do you have anything to say in your defense, Avery?" one of them asked. I smiled, pulling out my own phone. "Yes, actually, I do." I had anticipated this move. Over the past week, I had taken meticulous photos and videos of every step of my design process. I connected my phone to the projector and played the video. It showed me sketching, choosing fabrics, and stitching the dress together. The timestamps were clear, proving that I had completed the design days before Emma's supposed post. The audience watched in stunned silence as the video played. When it ended, I looked directly at Emma, her face turning a sickly shade of white. "As you can see," I said calmly, "I created this design entirely on my own. And unlike Emma, I have evidence to back it up." The judges whispered among themselves, nodding in agreement. The head judge finally spoke. "It seems clear to us that Avery's design is original. Emma, do you have any further evidence?" Emma stammered, unable to come up with a response. The smug confidence she had worn earlier was gone, replaced with panic. The audience, who had once been whispering against me, was now turning against her. That moment, Claire stepped forward. "I'd like to add something," she said, holding up her phone. "I've seen Avery work on this design from the beginning. Emma has been lying, and I have messages to prove it." With that final blow, Emma's facade crumbled. She tried to defend herself, but it was too late. The crowd had already made up their minds. The judges dismissed her accusations and commended me for my resilience. As I walked off the stage, Claire hugged me tightly. "You did it, Avery. You finally beat them." But I wasn't satisfied just yet. This was only the beginning. Ryan and Emma had taken everything from me in my previous life, and now it was time for them to pay. After the showcase, the atmosphere on campus shifted dramatically. Whispers followed Emma wherever she went, and her once adoring supporters had turned into harsh critics. The judges' praise for my design had spread like wildfire, and now, everyone knew that Emma had tried to frame me. But I knew better than to let my guard down. Ryan and Emma were cornered, and desperate people do desperate things. That evening, as I was packing up my station, Claire rushed over, her face pale with worry. "Avery, you need to check the school forum. Emma's not done yet." I pulled out my phone and opened the forum, bracing myself for whatever new drama she had stirred up. Sure enough, the top post was from Emma, trying to salvage her reputation. "Everyone, please hear me out. I admit that there were misunderstandings, but Avery has been threatening me behind the scenes, trying to ruin my reputation. I have messages and screenshots to prove it." I couldn't help but laugh bitterly. Threatening her? That was rich. Coming from someone who had stolen my work twice now. I knew this was a last-ditch effort to pull me down with her. But the damage had already been done. No one was buying her story anymore, especially after the evidence I presented at the showcase. Still, I had to act fast before she managed to sway anyone to her side. I quickly typed a response. "Emma, you've already been exposed in front of everyone. If you have any real evidence, go ahead and show it. But if all you have are lies, be prepared to face the consequences." My reply quickly gained traction, with many students supporting me. "Avery's right. Emma's been caught red-handed. Does she really think we'll fall for her lies again? Just give it up already, Emma." As the comments poured in, It became clear that Emma's smear campaign was failing, but I knew I needed to end this once and for all. The next day, I met with Professor Williams to discuss the situation. Professor, I need your help to clear this mess up. Emma's not going to stop unless she's forced to. Professor Williams nodded, looking at me thoughtfully. Avery, I believe you, but the school needs irrefutable proof. Do you have anything that can definitively disprove Emma's accusations? I took a deep breath. I do. I've saved all the videos, timestamps, and chat logs that show I created my designs long before Emma posted hers. I'm ready to present them to the school board. We arranged a meeting with the board the following morning. As I left the professor's office, I received a call from an unknown number. I hesitated for a moment before answering. Avery. It's me, Ryan. Came the voice I despised hearing. I stayed silent, letting him squirm. Avery, look, I'm sorry for everything. I was just caught up in Emma's lies. She made me believe you were trying to sabotage her. Ryan stammered. I didn't know the full story. Please, can we talk? I clenched my jaw, forcing myself to stay calm. Ryan, I've already blocked you everywhere for a reason. There's nothing left to say. Please, Avery, let's meet just once. I want to make things right. He pleaded. I sighed. You had your chance. Ryan, now, I'm done with you. If you or Emma try anything else, I'll make sure you both face the consequences. Before he could respond, I hung up and blocked the number. There was no way I was going to fall for his fake apologies again. He was only reaching out now because he could see Emma's ship sinking and wanted to save himself. The next morning, I walked into the meeting with the school board, carrying all the evidence I had painstakingly gathered. Emma was already there, looking pale and nervous. As I laid out my case, showing the videos and chat logs, the board members listened intently. Emma tried to interrupt, claiming I had fabricated everything. But Professor Williams stepped in to silence her. We've already verified Avery's evidence. Emma, unless you have concrete proof, you need to stop these baseless accusations. Emma's face turned red, her hands shaking. She was cornered, and she knew it. This isn't fair. Avery is lying. She screamed, but no one was listening to her anymore. Finally, the head of the board spoke. Emma, based on the evidence presented, it's clear that you've been dishonest. Your actions have not only hurt your classmates, but have also tarnished the reputation of this institution. Effective immediately. You are expelled. The room was filled with gasps. Emma collapsed into her seat, tears streaming down her face. But I felt no sympathy for her. She had done everything in her power to destroy me, and now, she was finally facing the consequences. As I left the room, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. For the first time, I was free from the shadows of my past. But this wasn't over yet. There was still Ryan, the snake who had betrayed me. On my way out, I received a text from Claire. Congrats on the victory, Avery, but be careful. Ryan's been asking around about you. I smiled to myself. Let him come. This time, I was ready. Emma's expulsion spread like wildfire through the campus. The once admired designer had fallen from grace, and everyone was buzzing about her downfall. But as satisfying as it was to see Emma get what she deserved, I knew my fight wasn't over yet. There was still Ryan, the man who had betrayed me in both this life and the last. I spent the next few days in relative peace, focusing on refining my new designs. But deep down, I knew Ryan wouldn't give up so easily. True to form, he started reaching out to my friends, trying to find a way to talk to me. Claire even warned me that he had been seen lurking around campus, asking about my schedule. But I wasn't afraid. This time, I was ready for whatever he had planned. One evening, as I was heading back to my apartment, I noticed a familiar figure leaning against the wall near my door. It was Ryan. He looked disheveled, a stark contrast to the confident, charming facade he used to wear. Avery, please, just hear me out. He begged as soon as he saw me. I crossed my arms, staring at him coldly. Why should I? You chose to side with Emma. Remember, now that she's gone, you want to crawl back to me? It's not like that, he protested, taking a step closer. I made a mistake. Emma manipulated me. I didn't realize what she was doing until it was too late. I laughed. a bitter sound that echoed in the hallway. Oh, so now it's all Emma's fault? How convenient. Ryan's expression shifted to one of desperation. Avery, I swear, I never wanted to hurt you. I was just confused. But I'm here now, trying to make things right. Make things right. I repeated, stepping closer to him. You're only here because you're scared. Emma's been exposed, and you know you're next. You're trying to save yourself. Not me. His face turned pale, and for the first time, I saw a flicker of fear in his eyes. Please, Avery, he whispered, lowering his voice. Let's not make this worse. If you keep pushing, I'll have no choice but to protect myself. I knew he was trying to intimidate me, but I refused to back down. Go ahead, Ryan, do your worst. But just know that I'm not the same person you betrayed in the past. I have evidence. I have support. And I have nothing left to lose. The threat in my voice must have hit home because he finally backed off, his shoulders slumping in defeat. You don't understand. Avery, if I go down, I'm taking you with me. I watched him walk away, my heart racing. Ryan was clearly desperate, but that only made him more dangerous. If he was willing to threaten me, there was no telling what he would do next. The next morning, I decided to take the initiative. I met with Professor Williams again to discuss my concerns. Professor, I believe Ryan is planning something. He's already tried to threaten me. I need to protect myself. Professor Williams nodded thoughtfully. I'll speak to the administration. If Ryan tries to pull anything, we'll handle it. But in the meantime, be careful. Avery. Leaving the professor's office, I felt a sense of resolve. I had faced worse than this in my previous life, and I wasn't about to let Ryan scare me into submission. But I couldn't shake the feeling that he was planning something big. That afternoon, as I was working on my latest design at home, I received a message from an unknown number. Meet me at the old cafe near campus tonight at 8 p.m. Come alone if you want to know the truth about Ryan. My instincts told me it was a trap, but curiosity got the better of me. If there was even a chance of uncovering what Ryan was planning, I needed to take it. I decided to go, but not without taking precautions. I sent Claire a message, letting her know where I was going and asking her to call me if she didn't hear back from me by 8:30. When I arrived at the cafe, the place was nearly empty. The dim lighting cast long shadows, making the atmosphere even more tense. I scanned the room and found Ryan sitting at a corner table, looking more disheveled than ever. You actually came, he said, surprised. You said you had something to tell me, so, talk. I replied, keeping my distance. He took a deep breath, his hands trembling slightly. Avery, I'm done pretending. The truth is, Emma wasn't the mastermind behind all of this. She was just the face of it. The real person pulling the strings was me. His words hit me like a punch to the gut, but I forced myself to stay calm. Why? Why go through all this trouble just to destroy me? Ryan's face twisted into a bitter smile. Because you always had what I wanted. The talent, the recognition, the praise. No matter how hard I tried, you were always one step ahead of me. So when Emma approached me with a plan to ruin you, I took it. You're pathetic. I spat, disgusted. All of this because of jealousy? It was more than jealousy, Avery. He hissed, his eyes wild. You don't know what it's like to be constantly overshadowed, to watch as everyone praises you while ignoring my hard work. I shook my head, unable to believe what I was hearing. You think that justifies everything you've done? All the lies, the betrayals. Ryan slammed his fists on the table, causing the few patrons in the cafe to turn and stare. I had no choice. But it's not too late. Avery, we can still fix this. You and I, we can work together. I took a step back, repulsed. You think I would ever trust you again? After everything you've done? Fine, he snapped, his voice dropping to a menacing whisper. Then if I can't have you on my side, I'll make sure you lose everything. This isn't over. Avery. I turned and walked out of the cafe, my heart pounding. Ryan's confession had confirmed what I already suspected. He was willing to go to any lengths to destroy me. But this time, I had the upper hand. On my way home, I called Claire. I have a plan. I told her. It's time to put an end to this once and for all. Ryan had made his final move, but now it was my turn. I wasn't going to let him ruin my life again. This time, I was prepared to fight back and make sure he paid for everything he'd done. Ryan's threats echoed in my mind long after I left the cafe. I knew he wasn't bluffing. This was a man who had betrayed me once before, and he was willing to do anything to pull me down with him. But this time, I wasn't the naive girl who let herself be blindsided. I had a plan, and it was time to put it into action. The first thing I did was reach out to Claire. "I need your help," I said over the phone, my voice steady. "Ryan is planning something, and I need to stay one step ahead." Claire didn't hesitate. "Anything you need." "Avery, what's the plan?" "I'm going to set a trap," I explained. "Ryan thinks he's smart, but he's underestimating me. I need to lure him out and gather undeniable evidence of his schemes." We decided to use the school's upcoming fashion showcase as our battleground. It was an event where students presented their final projects, and industry professionals were invited to scout new talent. It would be the perfect stage for Ryan's downfall. But to make this work, I needed to bait him into making a mistake. Over the next few days, Claire and I spread the word that I was working on an all-new, groundbreaking design. We let it slip in conversations, subtly ensuring that the rumor would reach Ryan. If I knew him as well as I thought, he wouldn't be able to resist the temptation to sabotage me one last time. Meanwhile, I worked tirelessly on my actual design, which I kept locked away in my apartment. The design I was publicly working on was a decoy, something to keep Ryan distracted. I knew he would send someone to try to steal it or tamper with it, and that's exactly what I was counting on. 3 days before the showcase, Claire called me late at night. "Avery, you were right. Ryan's definitely up to something. I overheard him talking to some guys about taking care of your project." A rush of satisfaction filled me. Everything was falling into place. "Good. Let him think he's won," I replied. "But make sure he doesn't suspect anything. The last thing we need is for him to realize it's a setup." The night before the showcase, I stayed up late, making sure everything was in place. I had installed hidden cameras around my workspace to capture any tampering, and I set traps to alert me if anyone tried to break into my apartment. Sure enough, around 2 a.m., the motion detector I set up near my workspace went off. My phone buzzed with an alert, and I quickly checked the camera feed. There he was, Ryan, sneaking into my studio with a small flashlight in hand. My heart raced, but I forced myself to stay calm. This was exactly what I had planned for. I watched in silence as Ryan rummaged through my workspace, clearly searching for the design he thought would guarantee my downfall. What he didn't know was that he was being recorded from multiple angles. As Ryan rifled through my things, he found the decoy designs I had left out on purpose. I watched with grim satisfaction as he took photos of the fake sketches, thinking he had struck gold. Once he was done, he quietly slipped out, completely unaware that he had walked right into my trap. The next morning, the day of the showcase, I met with Professor Williams. "Professor, I have evidence that Ryan has been trying to sabotage me again," I said, showing him the footage from the previous night. The professor watched the video with a look of shock and anger. "This is serious, Avery. With this evidence, we can take immediate action against him." I nodded. "I want to reveal this publicly during the showcase. Ryan has tried to ruin my life more than once, and it's time everyone sees him for who he really is." Professor Williams agreed, and we quickly made arrangements to present the evidence during my showcase presentation. As I walked into the venue, the tension was palpable. Ryan was there, smugly chatting with a few students who still believed his lies, but I ignored him, focusing on the task at hand. Claire gave me a thumbs up from across the room, letting me know that everything was ready. The event proceeded as planned, with students presenting their designs one by one. When it was finally my turn, I took a deep breath and stepped onto the stage. "Today, I'm not just here to present a design," I began, my voice steady and confident. "I'm here to reveal the truth." The room went silent. Ryan's smile faltered, but he still looked confident. Thinking I had nothing on him, I connected my phone to the projector, displaying the video footage of him sneaking into my studio. Gasps filled the room as everyone watched Ryan desperately trying to steal my designs. "And just in case anyone doubts what you're seeing," I continued, "these are the timestamps proving this happened just last night." Ryan's face turned ashen. He stood up, stammering, This is a lie. She set me up. Yes, I did set you up, I said, stepping forward, my voice ringing with authority, because I knew you would try to sabotage me again. You did it once, and I wasn't going to let you do it twice. The room erupted in murmurs. The professors, judges, and students were all staring at Ryan with disgust. The head judge finally spoke. Ryan, given this evidence, we have no choice but to disqualify you and report your actions to the administration. Ryan's eyes blazed with fury, but he was cornered. He tried to storm out of the room, but security stopped him. As he was escorted out, he turned to glare at me one last time. This isn't over, Avery, he shouted. You'll regret this. But I simply smiled. No, Ryan, it's over. You just haven't realized it yet. The showcase ended with a standing ovation for my presentation. As the applause died down, Claire ran up to hug me. You did it, Avery. You finally exposed them. I took a deep breath, finally allowing myself to feel the weight lifting off my shoulders. Yeah, I did, I said softly. And now, I can finally move on. But as I looked around the room filled with people who had once doubted me, I knew this was just the beginning of my journey. With Ryan and Emma out of the picture, the path ahead was clear. It was time for me to embrace my talent and build the future I had always dreamed of. With Ryan and Emma finally exposed, the weight I had been carrying for so long lifted off my shoulders. For the first time in what felt like forever, I could breathe easily. The sense of relief was overwhelming, but I also felt a strange emptiness. My entire life had been consumed with fighting back. And now that the battle was over, I wasn't sure what came next. The days following the showcase were a whirlwind. The school administration wasted no time taking action against Ryan. He was officially expelled for his actions, and the story of his attempted sabotage spread like wildfire across social media. Emma, meanwhile, had gone completely silent, her former supporters abandoning her one by one. But for me, life was finally starting to turn around. My designs from the showcase had caught the attention of several industry professionals, and offers started pouring in. Companies wanted to collaborate, magazines wanted to feature my work, and I even received invitations to showcase my designs at fashion weeks in major cities. One evening, as I was organizing my emails, Claire barged into my apartment, grinning from ear to ear. Avery, you won't believe it. Your name is everywhere. They're calling you the rising star of the fashion world. I couldn't help but smile. It still feels surreal, I admitted. After everything that's happened, I didn't expect things to turn around so quickly. Well, you deserve it, Claire said, pulling me into a tight hug. You fought hard for this. Now it's time for you to shine. But even as I celebrated these small victories, I knew my journey was far from over. The fashion world was competitive, and I had only just begun to make my mark. I needed to stay focused, stay sharp, and most importantly, never let my guard down again. A week after the showcase, I received an email that caught my attention. It was an invitation to a private fashion event hosted by one of the most prestigious design firms in New York. They were interested in showcasing my work and wanted to meet with me to discuss a potential collaboration. Avery, this is huge, Claire exclaimed when I showed her the email. You have to go. I nodded, my mind racing. This was the opportunity one had been waiting for. If I could make a strong impression at this event, it could open doors that I had only dreamed of before. But there was also a part of me that was hesitant. I had been burned before by people pretending to help me, only to stab me in the back. Do you think it's safe? I asked Claire, voicing my doubts. What if it's another trap? Claire shook her head. Avery, you can't live your life in fear. Not everyone is out to get you. Besides, you've proven you can handle whatever comes your way. You're stronger now. Her words gave me the confidence I needed. I decided to take the risk and accepted the invitation. Within a few days, arrangements were made, and I was on a flight to New York. The city was alive with energy when I arrived, and the fashion event was everything I had imagined. The venue was a luxurious ballroom filled with designers, influencers, and industry insiders. It was the perfect place to network and showcase my talents. As I walked through the crowd, I could feel eyes on me. Some people recognized me from the recent scandal, but most were genuinely interested in my work. For the first time, I was being seen for my talent rather than being overshadowed by lies. Just as I was beginning to relax, I spotted a familiar face in the crowd. It was Emma. My heart skipped a beat, but I forced myself to stay calm. What was she doing here? Hadn't she been disgraced enough? Emma approached me cautiously, her once confident demeanor replaced with a look of desperation. Avery, can we talk? Please, she pleaded. I stared at her, weighing my options. Part of me wanted to walk away, but another part was curious about what she had to say. Fine, I said curtly, leading her to a quieter corner. Emma's eyes were red, as if she had been crying. I just wanted to say I'm sorry, she stammered. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I've lost everything. Ryan abandoned me. My reputation is ruined, and no one will work with me anymore. I crossed my arms, keeping my expression cold. You expect me to feel sorry for you? After everything you did to me? She flinched at the harshness of my tone but pressed on. I know I made mistakes. I was jealous, insecure. I let Ryan manipulate me, but I never wanted things to go this far. I shook my head, unable to muster any sympathy for her. You're only sorry because you got caught. Emma, things had gone your way. You wouldn't be standing here, apologizing. You'd still be trying to ruin my life. Emma's shoulders sagged, and for a moment, I almost felt a pang of pity. Almost. I've learned my lesson, she said quietly. I just want a second chance. But I had no intention of letting her back into my life. A second chance? I repeated, my voice icy. I gave you my trust once, and you destroyed it. That's not something you get back. With that, I turned and walked away, leaving her standing alone in the corner. I didn't need her apologies. I was done letting people like her control my life. The rest of the night went smoothly, and by the end of the event, I had made connections that would help propel my career forward. As I stood on the balcony, looking out over the glittering city lights, I felt a sense of closure. Ryan and Emma were no longer threats. I had faced them head-on, exposed their lies, and come out on top. But more importantly, I had found my strength again. As I sipped on a glass of champagne, I allowed myself to dream of the future, a future where I was no longer defined by the betrayals of the past, but by the talent and determination that had gotten me here. The world was finally mine to conquer, and I was ready.